Welcome back to RGR Football. This is me, Ryan, going rogue, and we're going to go over some numbers today. It's that point of the season, the midway point. I'm going to have something else, an extra for you coming tomorrow or Thursday morning, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. It'll be another stats breakdown that is more about the trends of the year than it is about this, which is specifically to Week 8 at home against the New York Jets and the total chaos that ensued as the Chiefs utterly obliterated those Jets. There's a lot to go over here, some very positive numbers, but if you're new to the channel, make sure you click the like, the sub, and the bell notification so you know when we do something else. We're going to have lots of film review this week, at least a pair of them, probably more. We have some tailgating that's going to go on Friday. We'll give you the game plan breakdown on Friday as well. So we have a ton of variation. We're going to get some new voices in here, and you can always check us out on Monday and post-game nights for the live streams. But today, we're going to get directly into this game against the Jets that had the big potential to be a letdown. And I'm very happy to see that the Chiefs kept their intensity, kept their focus, and it really showed up in the box score as well as some of the more advanced stats that we care about in going to look at how they went about their business when they could have had, a slip like they did against the Raiders earlier in the season. That's always a challenge to maintain your motivation as you go through, but they got it done. And against the Jets, the first thing that we always take a look at is the efficiency of the offense, and that had a huge leap. This was specific. After having a slight backward pull last week, you saw them resurge, and it's not just the fact that they chose, the Jets did, to emphasize pressure rather than coverage. It's not just that they chose to try and stop the run rather than coverage, but that all led to the fact that this was the highest output of the Chiefs per play offensively to this point in this season, second only to the Ravens here. And we'll talk more about that here coming up in a video that you'll see in a morning or two. So this is a big step forward. If they can sustain this, I'd be very impressed. It's going to be difficult as they go forward. Tampa Bay is on the schedule. That is a very, very good defense. But this is a sign that no matter what happens, if it's a week away, if it's a week against the run, where that just happens to be what's there, Patrick Mahomes is still utterly capable of moving this team down the field and being the MVP that he is. And quite frankly, we'll talk more about this on the live stream. I think this actually put him back in the race with the MVP candidates. Now, the per drive scoring is always a particular interest to me because that doesn't fluctuate quite as much as the yards per play does. Conditions affect the yards per play, the opponent obviously, but specifically precipitation and wind always affect the yards per play. Not necessarily so on the drive percentage, because if you have less drives but you still are efficient, you'll score there. And they took a slight step back, just minus 8% this week, because they only scored on 5 of 10 drives, right at half. They had a slight edge, 7 out of 12 last week, so you pull back a little bit. But here's the key. Of the 50%, when they did score, they scored touchdowns. And that makes a big, big difference. The fact that they can go through and continually put up 6 points at a time, that goes a very long way. Now, they had a few punts, and we know that they had one drive extending fake punt. That was always good. But they didn't have field goals. And nothing against Harrison Butker, but that's perfectly fine. You'd rather have 7 than 3. If they can keep that up, despite having fewer drives, they're going to be in the driver's seat moving forward. And that's because they're playing a lot of plays with a lot of different players. And some of those, you guys know that I like to track, are the rookie class. And this class has been up and down and all over the place. And what we see here is that they took just a slight step back. They're still well over 100 snaps in this game for the rookie class. And that's kind of the threshold that I look for to make sure that your young players are contributing, especially on a roster that is this high a caliber, that is 7-1. If your rookies are participating, that is building your foundation for the future, and that is a really good sign. You know that I track that every week. This is a slight step back, mostly because Willie Gay didn't play as much. Willie played a ton in the base the previous week, but against the Jets, they were in nickel quite a bit, and Willie didn't get the snaps. But you saw Mike Danner return that made up for it some. You saw Turk Wharton have a great game, and he actually stepped up in his number of snaps as well. And so it all kind of balances out. We're going to take this as a class, not any one player as it goes. Otherwise, LJ Sneed would be probably, if healthy, the rookie that has put in the most snaps overall. But that's not the only metric that we have to keep an eye on, because the defense is doing their job as well. And one thing that we want to make sure that we always track is how much pressure they're putting on the quarterback. It's one thing to say that you can stop the run. It's another to say that you can confuse a quarterback with your coverages, being able to bring some blitzes. And that's exactly what Steve Spagnuolo did. He did vary it quite a bit. He was certainly on track for rattling Sam Darnold, who I think is a guy who needs to get out of New York and get a fresh start. And I still think he can make something of his career. I'm a big Sam Darnold fan. But Steve Spagnuolo got the better of him this day in particular. But he didn't necessarily do it with pressures, because the pressure rate actually fell again. And back to about what is a normal league average type area. There is a variation there, but for the Chiefs, this is a little bit low. They fell down to 34%. That's 12 pressures on 35 dropbacks. Now, they didn't get too exotic. They did a little bit more replacement rushing rather than addition rushing. That is, saw one zone play in particular where they brought 2 defensive backs, but they dropped 2 linemen. So you're still a net 4-man rush. It's just coming from a different position. That's not necessarily an overload or a blitz type package. Yes, it's moving players around, but it's not bringing 5 or 6 rushers, and that's really what gets the job done. Now, this is something that I think they need to, buckle down back on and make sure that they put an emphasis on this in the coming week before the bye, and then they're going to get back to that. And they're going to get a little bit of a rest midseason, and they're one of the teams, luckily, that gets to keep their midseason bye. That's going to help them as well. Now, this is a new one for me because I am really happy to see the number of missed tackles drop significantly, more than 50% down, with just 3 missed tackles on the week. That was a big thing early in the season. They got better, and then they popped back up and had a bad game. Now they're getting back on track, and this is certainly the level that you can live with on a week-to-week basis and expect to get wins. This is what I want to see going forward, and I think they're off on the right track. And my favorite, this is my new one because I'm really happy about the development of this particular one, and I call it the wall. And it is because the Chiefs have now done what we've been asking them to do for several years, certainly since the Sutton days, but really Andy Reid's whole regime. And that is they finally got the defense up out of the bottom half of the league. They are above 16 in quite a number of overall metrics, but this one in particular is what it really all boils down to. At the end of the day, it's about how many points you allow. And the Chiefs are number 7 in that category with 152 overall points allowed. Even with that 40-point debacle against the Raiders, that really puts them in a positive spin going forward. Now, they have a game or two with some significant offenses coming up, but they're going to be okay. And I think they're going to get their revenge on those Las Vegas Raiders as well. If they're here at this point, and this is the midpoint of the season, and they're sitting at number 7, I feel really optimistic about as they start to get things a little more advanced, a little bit more together. They're going to get LJ Snead back. They're going to get some of their guys that have been out back. Alex Okafor will probably return post-bye. There's plenty coming that will give them a lift, kind of like we saw last year in the Super Bowl season when they got to Week 11 in Mexico City and just kind of felt that lift and the defense took off. If they're already here, top 15 in some categories, top 10 in this particular category, the future is very, very bright. Now, I have some other trends that I want to show you. That'll be another video, so keep an eye out for that. If you are new, make sure you like, sub, and click the bell right now so you know everything that goes on. We'll have film reviews for you coming up. I'm going to take a look at some of the play designs that are really, really starting to evolve and hit on all cylinders. Dan's got a ton coming as well. And Dan Harms is going to take a look at one of his favorite guys, and I know one of yours. So appreciate all of your time checking this one out, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. These videos to see more, and subscribe to RGR Football.